Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook dominated on the ground last season, but rookie Jonathan Taylor wasn't far behind the two stars, and looking ahead, he's on the fast track to becoming the next superstar running back. He broke the franchise record for rushing yards in a single game while surpassing the mark of 1,000 yards on the year as a rookie. The 2020 second rounder was hit with some insanely high expectations after the presumed starter Marlon Mack went down with an Achilles injury. But Taylor came out of the gate slow. He only broke 70 yards once in the first 9 games, and he was barely even getting playing time at the halfway point of the season. But that obviously changed. There isn't something that happened that flipped the switch for Taylor, but all of a sudden, he started clicking, and he didn't turn back, dominating the end of the year, especially in December. The Colts' offensive identity in 2021 is going to be based on Carson Wentz and Jonathan Taylor. And the good news is that he's been in that same position before. A lot of you probably remember Taylor at Wisconsin, and while he never did take home the Heisman Trophy, he did manage to finish top 10 for the honor in all 3 years of college. For most college players, you see this trajectory of improvement from freshman year up until entering the NFL draft. But that wasn't really the case for Taylor. He literally had almost identical seasons all 3 years, dominating consistently and also staying healthy. Because of that, there isn't that much of a surprise that Taylor is dominating now in the pros. At Wisconsin, he was a true workhorse back, which can be really hard to find in today's game. Because he had so many carries in college, there was more of a worry of injury. But that didn't matter in his rookie season. He showed the ability to both break away for a big play and be able to push the pile and fight for yards. It's actually rare for a guy to be able to bring that kind of talent when it comes to power and speed. He constantly has a lot of comparisons to Melvin Gordon. Both played good at Wisconsin, and there were some weird questions about catching passes. They're kind of seen as the same now, especially when it comes to fantasy. Gordon can dominate on the ground and probably punch it into the end zone, but the receiving production is unknown. There were worries about Taylor's ball security, but he only fumbled once in 2020, so that's a good sign of tons of improvement from college. At Wisconsin, he fumbled about once every 50 carries, which is absolutely brutal. But in the pros, he's already had well over 200 carries. There were some questions about if he could catch passes because he was really only used in the passing game in his junior year. The Colts used him sparingly, going for about 300 yards and having the ability to make defenses worry that he can go out for a pass, making Indianapolis's offense even more unpredictable. There's no doubt that the receiving role from the backfield is going to go more in the direction of Nyheim Hines, like we've seen in the last 2 years. But his contract does end after 2021, and if he doesn't re-sign, Taylor might find himself with a lot of pass-catching opportunities left on the table. Taylor is already in a pretty good headspace for year 2, and has talked about how it's been fun to just see the growth he's already had in a year. He talked about how he knows the basics and stuff, and how he can get better at anticipating and knowing pre-snap what the defense is set up for. Obviously, 2020 was a weird season coming off of a pandemic and all. Taylor didn't have a camp or really anything as a rookie and had to learn at a pretty fast rate. Now, he's had a full offseason to grasp the playbook and really prepare. Taylor could very well rush for over 2,000 yards in 2021, and I still don't think that will change who the most talked about player for the Colts will be, Carson Wentz. The longtime Eagle is in desperate need for a second chance, and that's going to come in 2021. The Colts head coach is Frank Reich, and their wide receivers coach, Mike Groh, both were offensive coordinators for the Eagles. Wentz didn't have much of a rushing attack in Philadelphia. Miles Sanders has never rushed for 900 yards in a season, and before him, nobody to play with Wentz had even hit 800. I mean, do you even remember Josh Adams? Dude was fantasy relevant for like 2 days and then disappeared to be bounced on and off the Jets practice squad for the past 2 years. For a guy that's been really pissed off about the lack of receivers in Philadelphia, Wentz now gets a washed up T.Y. Hilton, who hasn't recorded over 800 yards in 2 years, and Michael Pittman Jr., who didn't have the best rookie year.
I'm trying to think. Respectfully.
But honestly, I think Carson Wentz was willing to do literally anything to get away from Doug Peterson and having to play in a stadium that has a statue of his old backup quarterback outside. No, God! Marlon Mack did re-sign in Indianapolis, but anything dealing with the Achilles is so hard to return from. And Jonathan Taylor did enough in 2020 to prove that he does deserve that top role going forward. Nyheim Hines is still a factor, but anyone that has watched him play knows that he's much more of a wide receiver coming out of the backfield than anything else. It's no secret that a lot of running back success is based on how good the offensive line is. And for Taylor, the good news is that the Colts have been one of the best for the past few years. The bad news is that Anthony Costanzo isn't at left tackle anymore. Indianapolis did sign former first overall pick Eric Fisher, but he's probably going to start the year on the physically unable to perform list after his Achilles surgery. Quentin Nelson might just be the best offensive lineman in the entire league, and Ryan Kelly is one of the better centers. At guard, Braden Smith is an ascending star, and Mark Glowinski is a proven starter. Taylor should have no room to complain in 2021 with that studded offensive line in front of him. Jonathan Taylor and Carson Wentz are going to be the two guys to watch if the Colts are going to try to make a run at the Titans in the AFC South. There's no doubt that the Texans and the Jaguars are 100% a mess. The Titans are great, but the Colts roster is legitimately one of the best in the league. For a while, it was just a matter of finding a quarterback. If Wentz does end up being the answer, he will already have a dynamic running back behind him to help slash opposing defenses. Jonathan Taylor is going to be good in 2021, and he's going to be the number one guy in Indianapolis. I mean, there's really no debate on that at this point. It's just going to be the question of where he fits in with the rest of the top rushers in the league. Already being in the same conversation as Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook when it comes to rushing yards is impressive. But what really matters is how the Colts do and what his part is. Maybe Carson Wentz returns to near MVP form, and Taylor ends up being able to carve up defenses. I mean, who knows? But right now, Taylor is set up for a big 2021. So, what do you think he'll do this season? And more importantly, do you think the Colts are going to be good with Carson Wentz? Look, we're trying to hit 100,000 subscribers before the start of the NFL preseason in early August. So click right here to subscribe to the channel, and if you don't want to, or you already are because you're awesome, then click right here to watch another video.